Some truly uncommon advice that is completely contrary to, you're not going to find it in any of the abundant research on practicing. It's quite revolutionary. It's going to change how you think about practicing, because truly there is this myth out there, and I'm going to talk about that in a moment, like where is this coming from? But there's a myth that you need 10,000 hours of practicing to achieve mastery in a skill. This is a myth. It is not true. And I'm going to talk about why, and why it's a good thing for you if you want to learn a skill, because the truth is you can actually master a skill much faster than 10,000 hours. And tell me in the comments if you're here and if this is interesting to you. I'm sure you're here. Hi, Steve. Great to have you here on YouTube. I'm glad to know that this is working on YouTube. I'm also on Facebook right now. So if somebody is on Facebook watching, I would love to hear from you just to make sure this is all up and running and working. So thanks, Steve. Okay, so I'm going to be really brief about the actual research because you can Google it. It is so abundant. It is everywhere online. There have been lots of studies done on practicing. And the most famous study that has led to this myth that you need 10,000 hours to master a skill was popularized by a book by Malcolm Gladwell called Outliers. And that's a book from, let me see my notes here, 2008. That's when that book is from. And since then, it's like he highlighted that he generalized information from a research study from 1993. One of the authors of that study was Anders Ericsson in his paper called The Role of Deliberate Practice with the Acquisition of Expert Performance. Okay, so Malcolm Gladwell Malcolm Gladwell is brilliant. I love his books. They are amazing, highly recommended. But, you have to take anything out there with a grain of salt, even from someone as prestigious and really reliable in most senses as Malcolm Gladwell, right? He's brilliant, he's a genius. But he took some things from the study and kind of generalized, and put that in his book. And he actually wrote, this quote is from him. He says, 10,000 hours is the magic number of greatness, end quote. I mean, no, that is actually not true. So just to back up, let me say that in the study, the 1993 study with, one of the authors, or the author of that paper, Anders Ericsson, about the acquisition of expert performance being deliberate practice especially, Ericsson noticed how many people who had actually gotten to the degree that you might call mastery. I don't really think of it as mastery, but that's, we all have different definitions for words. But to become an expert in the skill, there were a lot of people in that study that actually practiced less than 10,000 hours. 10,000 hours was the average that people had practiced. And there are just so many details. So if you really want to know where this is coming from, you should really go read that article about deliberate practice. And yet, even with all the things that have been put out, Ericsson also talked about later about how much was taken out of context from the research and misapplied, misunderstood, and he stressed very much later the necessity of good teaching, for example. So there were just so many factors that were not taken into account in that research study. And then there were a lot of other studies that came later that kind of confirmed some of the earlier findings, but then also made things a little more dubious. So here's what I have to share for you today. I feel very strongly, and nobody knows anything with 100% accuracy, but I can tell you with 99% accuracy from my own experience and from working with hundreds of musicians, that everybody out there, all the research studies that I've come across, and I'm sure there are many that I have not come across, but I would be very, very surprised if any of these studies, and I know they don't focus on what I'm going to tell you. Everybody is missing what I'm going to tell you. And that's the focus of this talk today. There is one element that is the biggest, most important determining factor in how quickly and how well you can master a skill. Okay, so that's going to be the bulk of what I'm talking about. I'm done talking about research. My brain does not work with remembering details and facts and dates, and so I was like, I have my notes here, and really just go Google 10,000 hours of practice. You will find the first thing that'll pop up is probably, a whole bunch of papers debunking it, talking about what I'm saying, that it's a myth, it's not true. It's just not true, okay? You do not need 10,000 hours to master a skill, but I'm going to talk specifically about why in just a moment. Before I get to that, I just want to briefly say hello again to people showing up. I'm so happy to have you here. Jen Bailey on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. I'm really hoping that this is working in my Facebook group. So if anybody's watching in my Facebook group, the group is called The Musician's Advantage with Jennifer Roig-Francolí. If you're on Facebook and you're not a member, please come join. It's a great group. I give out tons of really helpful information in there all the time. And I'm not seeing anybody commenting from my group, so there's not going to be much I can do about it, but I'm just going to pull up the group to just make sure that the live video is showing there. Just give me 1 second. This is what happens in a live video. You really hope it's working, but it looks like it may not actually be working. Hello, Deborah Henderson. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for watching. I'm just going to briefly introduce, Jen says it's not on the Facebook page. Yes, please share the link for this. Thank you so much. Share the link for this into my private Facebook group, The Musician's Advantage. I'd be so grateful. Thank you. Okay, fantastic. Yeah, and share it on my public profile too. What the heck? If it's not in my Facebook group, just put it. I'd be so grateful if you share that everywhere, everybody, and share it with your friends, musicians, whatever. But I really appreciate your help. Okay, thank you very, very much for that. Okay, really briefly, those of you who are new to my world, who don't know who I am at all, just very quickly, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Jennifer Roig-Francolí. I am the creator of the Art of Freedom method for conscious living and masterful artistry. I am a professional violinist. I have been playing and performing all my life. I have won international prizes. I have performed at Carnegie Hall 4 times. What else? I've studied, if you're a violinist, this will be meaningful to you. I studied with Nathan Milstein for 5 years. I studied with Joseph Gingold at Indiana University. I play modern and Baroque violin, but mainly I am a coach for musicians. I am a double certified Alexander technique teacher, both with AMSAT and ATI, and I have 7 additional years right now of extra training in Primal Alexander, which is the most revolutionary, amazing, fantastic way of sharing the essence of the original Alexander technique in a brand new way without the hands. So I teach hands-free, touch-free, and I teach exclusively online. I've been doing this exclusively online since 2018, so I've got tons and tons of experience with musicians, helping musicians, specializing in helping them overcome mindset issues like performance anxiety and imposter syndrome. Pain, I help people out of pain. My students come with tendinitis, carpal tunnel, back pain, neck pain, shoulder pain, you name it. And very quickly I help them with very specific tools that they can practice on their own at home on a daily basis for just a few minutes, and truly the pain starts to melt away. And this has happened, almost with 100% of my students. There's always an exception to the rule, but this works I have an introductory program that I'll tell you about towards the end of this video. It's going on right now, special fall edition. Please reach out to me if you want the details. The price goes up on September 24th, but you can reach out to me anytime. And it's a great program that's 30 days, and it totally transforms how you think about yourself, your music, your body, your mind, and you start to feel great. You start to feel better, and you learn how you can play better in so many ways. Yes, it's great. Okay, I'm going to stop talking about myself and my program, tell you more about it later. If you're interested in the program, I am offering a very special bonus today for people watching this video today live. I'm giving away a free Mindset Power Toolkit. That's a $300 program. I'm just giving it to anybody who signs up for the 30-day program today. So, okay, enough of that. Now, on to our main topic. It is a myth. It truly is a myth that you need 10,000 hours to master a skill. I'm going to talk about the three main, there are a lot of problems with the research that, again, I'm not going to go into the details and the specifics about the research. You can Google all that, okay? But just really briefly, the study didn't take into account so many things. But I'm going to highlight three reasons it's erroneous, that it's a myth, and because they're based on three assumptions. These three assumptions are, number one, there's an assumption that people know how to practice well. People do not know how to practice well. Some people do, most people truly do not. Okay, I have found in my many decades of life as a musician that it's very rare for a person to actually know how to practice well. And yes, good teaching is essential for a student to know how to practice well, to know what to practice and know how to practice. Really excellent teaching that teaches you how to do excellent practicing is also very rare, in my humble opinion. And in my experience, this is what I've seen. Okay, so people in general do not know how to practice well. I work with amateurs and professionals, and I have had so many professional musicians come to me asking me for help with their practicing. They don't know what makes for good practicing. And in fact, here's the other, well, part of something that goes hand in hand with that. Like, people don't know how to do good practicing. And part of it is because of a lot of myths about practicing that have been perpetuated, that have been debunked by further research. For example, that you need to practice things over and over and over again, that you have to do tons of repetition. That is a tremendous amount of wasted time when you understand why, and especially if you are practicing and repeating over and over and over again something wrong. You're practicing something wrong because you weren't taught well, or because you weren't taught it at all, or because you're practicing, pay attention to this one because I'm going to be coming back to this. This is part of the big thing I'm going to talk about. If you're practicing something over and over and over again with a lot of excess tension, you can actually be going backwards in your progress because you're practicing the wrong thing. If you want to learn how to master a skill, and to me, mastery of a skill really means that you're able to do whatever that skill is with effortlessness, with ease, with facility, with freedom and spontaneity, where you are absolutely responsive in the moment to new ideas you might have, to things that might go wrong, to things that your colleagues, the musicians you're playing with, are doing. Mastery means you are in the moment and it's easy. Yes, it is easy when you have mastered something. The technique, the skill is so easy that you don't have to think about it at all, which means that your soul, your heart and soul can be so available for the essential connection and communication and inspiration that can happen. Okay? That is my personal definition on the spot right now here in front of you of not just skillful mastery, honestly, but artistic mastery. And I have to say that, those the research studies that have been done, how can they assess the level of mastery when so much of that is actually subjective? When it's kind of an energetic, I get goosebumps listening to this person kind of thing, right? So my work is all about how to achieve artistic mastery. But artistic mastery actually is distinct from skillful mastery. Okay, you can have skillful mastery and sound like a typewriter, and it'll be boring and dead, and who wants to listen to that? You know what I'm talking about? You don't want to listen to that, okay? What you really want, I think, is artistic mastery with skillful mastery. Skillful mastery meaning that you know how to use your musical instrument with ease and effortlessness, and your body does what your brain wants it to do. Like there's no interruption, there's no interference, or there's minimal interference anyway, right? Okay, so that's kind of how I'm thinking about these things. So that first assumption that people know how to practice, if you're going to count the quantity of hours that people need to practice, isn't it kind of ridiculous that you're not looking at the quality of practice? Erickson was totally right later when he was talking about that, and when in his paper about deliberate practice. Of course, it's like a no-brainer if you actually think about it for a moment. So that's the main problem with this idea of 10,000 hours of practice. How do you define practicing? And how on earth could you master a skill just with a quantity of practicing without looking at the quality? I mean, that's just so stupid. Sorry. Yeah, but it does make sense that you need a certain quantity of practice, of qualitative practice, to reach your goal. Okay? So this is a big part of what I'm going to be talking about now. It's about the quality of your practice. And, an abundance of qualitative practice. You can't just do perfect practicing for 10 hours on the violin and think you can master that skill in 10 hours. Of course not. Of course you need a long time. But the studies cannot quantify this. Every unique human being is different. The studies don't even take into account the age that people started playing their instruments. It's easier, it's easier if you're 4 years old, like I was when I started. It's easier to start learning an instrument. We all know that when you're 4 or when you're a kid than when you're 70. But I have beginner students who are in their 70s and they make unbelievable progress. So even age doesn't have to be as important as you think. Then there's genetics. They've done studies on twins, and there's so much research. There's so much that they didn't take account of in the research. So back to the three main reasons that this research is based on assumptions. The first one is that people know how to practice well. They don't. Some people do. Most people don't know how to practice well. Even professionals could use a lot of help. And I help them with that in becoming super efficient and super effective in how they use their thinking when they practice. Their thinking in conjunction with their bodies. Okay, so the second one is that practicing requires time with your instrument. Okay, now this one you may be like, what? What did she just say? Right? Of course practicing is with your instrument. Well, no, it's not necessarily. And have the studies looked at the kind of practicing that people did with instruments, without instruments? I know when I was a kid, again, I started when I was 4. I was totally hooked on the violin. All I cared about was music. I was completely single-mindedly focused on becoming a master of my instrument. That's all I thought about. It's all I did all the way through my teenage years. And I was practicing away from my instrument. What I did was I was in school. Thankfully I was smart. I was in my classes and I'd have a lot of extra time. I'd be done with the assignment or whatever and I would be bored. So in that time, instead of just sitting there staring out the window, I did plenty of daydreaming, of course, staring out the window, I did that too. But a lot of the time that I naturally was thinking about my music. I was actually practicing. If I had a lesson that day after school, you bet, in my classes, multiple times a day, when I woke up in the morning, when I went to sleep, right before I went to sleep at night, I was practicing. I was working on stuff in my head, right? That is traditionally called mental practice. Personally, I hate that term because it's about mental, and by definition, mental practicing is not necessarily including your emotions, your body. There are studies, by the way, that show that you need to bring your emotions into learning, and it speeds up the learning process, right? So go find that research. There's plenty of that. So I was doing something more like MindFlow practice. I call it MindFlow practicing now. I teach that to my students because you are learning how to practice your music internally in your mind, but you're also paying attention to your emotions and your feelings in your body and the relative tension and relative easing in your body. That's what makes for excellent MindFlow mental practicing. So did the studies ask those musicians that they qualified as masters in their skill or experts in their instrument, did they ask them how many hours they did mental practice? No, of course not. So the 10,000 hours it's not real. Okay, what really good musicians do, the people who really excel, they know that, they're thinking about music all day long. And they're naturally or systematically on purpose, because they've been taught well, they know the power of practicing away from the instrument. That counts as practicing in my book. In reality, it counts. Imagine if you meditated and did an hour of MindFlow practicing, and then you picked up your instrument. It would be improved from the day before compared to if you had not done that hour of MindFlow practicing. Guaranteed for sure. Okay, so those are the 2 of 3 assumptions. First one was people know how to practice well. They don't. Number 2, the second assumption is that the definition of practice is time spent with your instrument. Wrong. No, you've got to expand your concept of what practicing is to include so-called mental practicing, which I did another video on that. It can be detrimental if you don't know how to do it right. If you're doing mental practice with a ton of physical tension, you're actually rehearsing how to play with physical tension, which is going to slow down your progress. So you need to actually know how to do mental practicing well also if you want to do mental practicing. I teach MindFlow practicing. That's how to do it right. That's a better way to do it, okay? Using the whole self. And I have a system that I teach people, right? It's a very easy, simple, but you kind of have to know how to do it. That's where the good teaching comes in, right? And there's a lot of bad advice about mental practicing. I'm just warning you. Whatever you read out there that tells you to focus on how you're feeling with your body when you practice something, ignore that, because you're going to be practicing with more tension. But I can't go further into that right now. If you want to know more about that, just message me, email me at jennifer@artoffreedom.me. Come join my Facebook group, ask questions there anytime. It's called The Musician's Advantage with Jennifer Roig-Francolí. Okay, the third one is going to bring me to the really revolutionary idea that nobody knows. No, there's been no research on, that is absolutely the key to all of it, to making your practicing faster and easier. The third assumption that people just blindly believe is that your practicing is related to your music making directly. It's hard for me to explain this. Give me a moment. Okay, so people assume that part of the definition of practicing is that it's music related, that it's thinking about the music, it's either with the physical instrument or it's mental practicing the way I just talked about. Again, don't do that. Do MindFlow practicing, please. But both of those ways of practicing with the instrument or mental practicing, MindFlow practicing, it's still about the music. It's still about what you're doing with your instrument. It's still about what you're doing with the music. Now that may seem obvious to you. I think that is probably what most people think. It's probably, it seems to be complete common sense, right? Well, let me take you a step further. And this is the revolutionary idea that nobody's talking about. I have something that I call primal practice. Primal practice is, or AKA, otherwise known as the use of the self. The use of the self was a phrase coined by F.M. Alexander, the originator of the Alexander technique, which I'm, specialist in. Primary practice is when you're really paying attention to how you are using your whole self, how you are using your mind, how you're using your body, how those are connected. They are absolutely connected. You can't separate them. How you are reacting to things during the day. It's how you as a whole are using the systems of this person, this body that you live in this world. It's noticing and witnessing and being very aware, very conscious of what you're doing with your whole self at any given moment, during any activity during your day. That's primal practice. Now, if you can make primal practice part of your understanding of, oh wow, if I can improve the use of my whole self, if I am paying attention to practicing the use of my whole self at any time I can remember during the day, and I'm improving the quality of how I use my whole self, the quality of how I think, the quality of how I move, the quality of how I move my arms, the integration of my whole mind, body, emotional, spiritual self. If I can improve the quality of how I use myself, and I bring that improved quality into the music room, into the musical practice room, then the quality of what I'm doing with my whole self, with my instrument, with my violin, piano, cello, you name it, is automatically going to be improved. This is really a revolutionary idea. It's a revolutionary concept, even though Alexander was born in 1855. The Alexander technique has been around since then. It's been around for a long time. And Alexander himself didn't even invent this. He discovered this fundamental truth about the human being and how the human being functions, how we are designed. We have this wonderful thing called free will, where we get to choose how we react to stimuli. I call my work the Art of Freedom method, because it reminds me constantly that what I really want is to realize my freedom to be myself, according to my natural design. That free will, that choice. And we have that ability because we have this wonderful, unique ability to witness ourselves, which I don't think that animals have. I think this is a special human gift that we can self-reflect, we can observe ourselves, we can notice what's happening to ourselves in any given moment, from moment to moment, when we pay attention. It requires a special quality of attention. And like I said, Alexander didn't invent this. This is a natural skill. It's a quality we all have, but I call it a skill because even though we all have this quality, it needs to be developed in most of us. I feel that the people who are natural, gifted musicians are just the ones who didn't interfere as much with that quality that we all have that's inherent to being human. They didn't interfere as much. When we interfere with that ability to self-reflect, self-observe, and to be aware in the present moment, when we interfere with that, we are increasing our tension levels. Like if I do it right now and I show you, because I'm really not paying attention to how I'm talking and I'm not really paying attention to what I'm doing, and I'm just kind of like spewing words without really thinking about what I'm saying. If I do that, can you feel the tension? If I take this self into the practice room and I'm all excited about practicing and I get out my violin and I practice like this and I practice for 10 hours, all right, I might get somewhere by the end, but I've gotten really good at whatever I'm practicing. I'm going to get really good at playing the Tchaikovsky concerto with a huge amount of tension because that's what I practiced. Now let me let go of that so that you and I can both feel better. I bet you started breathing as soon as I let go of that. Tell me in the comments, did you start breathing better? Are you breathing better right now than when I do this? I'm holding my breath. And then when I let go, I bet you start to breathe like I do, because we're connected. Okay, so if I bring that tense person into the practice room and practice 10 hours, I might get somewhere. I'm going to get good at playing whatever it was with a lot of tension, because that's what I practiced. And it's going to take me a certain number of years to get to a certain level by practicing that way. Are you with me? Okay. Now, imagine for a moment that, well, let's take me for example. Okay, so let's say I'm really aware that I'm actually practicing all day long just by living, by paying attention. Every time, let's say, every single time I remember to pay attention, to become more conscious, to become more aware, to ask what Mio Morales calls the primary concern. Mio Morales is the creator of what I talked about earlier. It's the hands-off, touch-free, revolutionary way of learning the Alexander technique called Primal Alexander. Mio Morales is my partner and the creator of that incredible way of doing things, which I have been studying and using and practicing and teaching for like 7 years now. Wow. Yes, so if you pay attention, if I were to pay attention to what he calls the primary concern, I would be asking myself during the day, when I'm brushing my teeth, right now when I'm moving my hands, as I'm talking, if I ask myself, what is happening to me right now as I am doing this activity? When I become self-reflective and curious, curiosity is a big key. If I get curious and I pay attention to the quality of my use of self, I call that primary practice. I can do that anytime I remember during the day, in any situation, at any time. Whether I'm in a stressful situation, this is the key to performance anxiety, by the way. Overcoming performance anxiety, by the way, is learning how to do this systematically. Just saying, reach out to me if you have that issue. I can help you. Asking that question, being self-reflective and aware multiple times during the day, pausing to pay attention to the quality of how you use your whole self. Imagine if I then bring this self into the practice room and I continue to make my primary concern primary during my musical practice session. What if I keep getting curious and keep paying attention and keep being more and more conscious and aware of what's happening to me as I am playing that Tchaikovsky concerto? Oh, I just got tense on that shift. Oh, need to work on that shift. Let me let go of that. And then, there's a system that I teach to become super efficient and effective in applying the primary concern and the Alexander principles to the specific techniques of playing your musical instrument. So it is not about the quantity of time applied to your musical instrument that makes you finally become a master at your instrument someday. It's not. Imagine you're bringing the self into the practice room and you're practicing the wrong notes and practicing with bad technique. Obviously, you need good teaching. You need a good foundation. You need to know how to practice efficiently, how to practice well. You need to bring quality of practice into the quantity. I mean, you need both quantity and quality. It comes down to that. But it's not just a quantity of musical practice with your instrument, or even just musical practice with your instrument, adding on mental practicing away from your instrument. No, it's not just those things. You can do just those things and end up very skillful with your instrument, but you will not, in my definition, be a master. Because you will be doing, most likely, what most people do. You will be playing your instrument without effortless ease, freedom, spontaneity, joy, full-bodied emotions, and total connection with yourself and your audience in the moment. To me, that is what a true artistic master can do. Doesn't mean you can do it all the time. I can do this sometimes, to be completely honest. I can't do that all the time, but the more I pay attention to the use of myself with primary practice during the day, whenever I can remember, when I come back and I do what we call constructive thinking, my whole system starts to free up. There is energetic flow. My movements become more effortless, free, and I become responsive. Alexander talked about quickening the conscious mind. I know that's happening. I finally understand what he meant. I understood it, I think it was about 2 or 3 years ago, when something like the light bulb went off and I experienced what he was talking about, the quickening of the conscious mind. I've been studying the Alexander technique since 2003, and I had read that in his books. I read his books, devoured them, loved them. I was curious, right? I read about quickening the conscious mind, and I thought, okay, well, that's interesting. Well, sure. But I didn't understand at all what he really meant, because I hadn't had that experience until just a few years ago. And that is completely thanks to Primal Alexander. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. It's not the quantity, it's quantity combined with quality. But when you have the quantity of qualitative, holistic practicing, meaning you get to practice even when you're not thinking about music, because this is the primary instrument. You are practicing the primary instrument all day long, and then you just add on your musical instrument. Then, of course, you have to learn some notes and about phrasing and technique and tempo, and they're all the specific musical stuff. But those are always secondary to what you're doing with your whole self in any given moment. When you know how to pay attention in the way I've described, you have it made. You're always going to get better. You're never going to go backwards. Might feel like it sometimes, but no. And you're going to learn so much faster. If you really dedicate yourself to learning in this way, you don't need 10,000 hours. Even in the study, many of the people that they included in this study, mastered their skill in much less than 10,000 hours. That was just an average. It's just a random, arbitrary number. that people caught on to because of Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers. And it's, yeah. So I hope this was useful for you. I'm going to move on now and just share with you, because, you know, I can talk about this, but you're not experiencing it. Or you might experience a little bit of it, like when I really pay attention and I slow down and I do a little constructive thinking. Like earlier when I showed you tension and then I let go. You can feel how you breathe, you feel better when I don't do that. So I could talk about it. Endless videos, endless writings. I write so much. If you're not on my email list and you want to get my writings, please put in the comments you want to be on my list and I'll get in touch with you. But it's not the same as the actual experience. Like, I didn't understand what quickening the conscious mind meant until just a few years ago, right? You're not going to really understand what I'm talking about unless you try it. If you are all in and you're like, this is makes so much sense, I want this. I want to learn how to become an artist, master my art, master my skill in much less than 10,000 hours. I want to learn about primary practice. If you know this is for you, if you've been frustrated with your practicing, if you know you don't really know how to practice and you want help, my best option for you is my premium 6-month private coaching program that includes several of my best self-study courses. I have an amazing group. There are like 4 ways that you can participate live in my group sessions every week. It's always optional. Some people don't like groups, but it's highly recommended. And private coaching with me, like for 6 months. That is absolutely by far the best way to dive deep into all this stuff and get my one-on-one personal help. So I really encourage you to reach out to me, you know, on Facebook Messenger or through email. Just send me an email saying, I'm curious about your coaching program. My email address is jennifer@artoffreedom.me. That's .me. But if you kind of want to dip your toes in first, right? I have a really excellent popular 30-day program where you can get started on learning everything I've talked about today. Basically, you're going to start learning how to practice this primary instrument. If you have pain when you play, if you're trying to overcome an injury, if your healing is too slow, if you want to prevent injury, so if you have a focus on physical stuff that you want help with, this will be perfect for you. People feel better by the end, and they have tools that they can continue using. If you have performance anxiety, stage fright, any feelings like emotional issues, lots of negative chatter up here that you can't stop and that keeps getting in the way of your performance, and you're always second guessing yourself, and you're always screwing up and thinking, why did this happen? I sound great in the practice room, and then I get on stage and everything falls apart and I have no control because I'm shaking and I can't control my tremor and whatever. Reach out. This program will help you. If you just know that you play your instrument with too much tension, you can be an elite professional. I have right now one of my students is on the faculty at Juilliard. Okay, if you're an elite professional, you can benefit from this. I'm telling you, I can point out the top musicians on video and tell you exactly how they are using too much tension. Serious, and I'm not exaggerating. If you're a beginner amateur and you can't figure out how to play your cello or your violin without squeezing, without a death grip on your violin, please reach out. I don't care what your skill level is. This program will help you. What else? You want to just improve your skills. You want to learn how to do primary practice and bring that into the practice room. Reach out. The 30-day intro course, it's called the Musician's Mind-Body Breakthrough. Truly is that. It's revolutionary. It's different from everything else out there. I guarantee it. And I feel so strongly about it that I actually guarantee it. And you get your money back if you don't notice improvement by the end of this program. What more can I offer? Oh yeah, I also offer scholarships. So please don't let money stop you. This is a high-end, very high-quality program. It's not cheap. How could it be cheap? Why would I cheapen it? It's not like everything out there. And yet, I want to make it accessible for as many people as possible. I don't normally offer full tuition scholarships, but I can work with you on a partial tuition scholarship if you need that. Okay? It's not for everybody, but it could help everybody. Okay? So reach out. It's a 30-day program. I am running a special edition this fall, 2022, in which you get to choose your start date. So if you feel like now's not the right time, now is still the time to register because the price is going up in a few days. You can register now and choose your own start date. It's a 30-day program. I'm also offering an extra week, like a bonus week. So it's actually 5 weeks right now. You get a private coaching session with me. You get my Jumpstart Self-Study course that gives you all the foundations that you need. You get the daily practice of Primal Alexander etudes, basic etudes. You learn how to practice this primary instrument from day one. You start practicing it. It takes just a few minutes a day. This is designed for busy musicians. We're all busy. We all think we don't have enough time. We're all stressed. We're all rushing. We're all in a hurry. That's why you need this program, because this program is going to help you think better, slow down internally so you can speed up externally without all the stress, without all the pain, the tension, the anxiety. This program is going to help you get control of yourself and your life and apply it to your teaching, your performing, whatever you want, your injury, etc., etc., etc. So that's the Musician's Mind Body Breakthrough Special Fall Edition. Reach out, register, ask me for details. I will send you the information. Tell me if you're an amateur or professional. I'll send you the appropriate information. And you can tell me when you want to start after you register. You're going to start this fall. You tell me when. And I think that's, oh yes, if you're watching this video today on September 22nd, 2022, a lot of twos in there. If you're watching this today and you register for the Musician's Mind Body Breakthrough today only, no exceptions, just today, I am offering a very special bonus gift. I am just giving away it's called the Musician's Mindset Power Toolkit, kind of funny name. It's a short course that is just about your mindset. It's about building up some very helpful daily habits to improve with your overall attitude, your mindset. It's going to help you if you have performance anxiety, if you have any kind of, mood issues. If you anybody can benefit from this truly, because we all could use better control over this mind, body, self. So I'm giving away that program to anybody who registers today for the Musician's Mind Body Breakthrough. It's a $300 program. I'm just going to give it away today. Okay? So reach out to me on Facebook Messenger anytime. Send me an email at Jennifer. Send me an email to jennifer@artoffreedom.me. That's .me. And just tell me that you're interested. If you're interested in going all in with my 6-month private coaching program, please tell me that, and I will have a conversation with you to see if that will be the best thing for you. It's almost always the best thing for anybody, so I would encourage you, if you have the means and the time to, it's not about the time to really, I take that back, but if you really want to go in, it's a high-end program. It's not cheap, like I said before, although I always offer, help with partial tuition scholarships for everything that I do. So ask me about the 6-month private coaching program if you know this is for you. If you want to get your feet wet with something very powerful, proven, tons of testimonials. I see one here in the comments. Jen Bailey says, Jennifer's course both solved my injury problems and has allowed me to get on top of 30 years of performance anxiety. Still working on it, but it's working. Jen, thank you so much for sharing that into the comments. I'm so grateful and so happy that you continue to use what you learned in this introductory course. Thanks for sharing that. I really appreciate it. So yeah, take the introductory course. Now, I can stay on just for a couple more minutes. Well, first, thank you so much for being here. And I'm going to stay just a couple more minutes if somebody has a question. If you got a question and you happen to be here live, just throw it into the YouTube comments. Sadly, my software system did not go live in the Facebook group as intended, which is very sad. But thanks to those of you who helped me out by sharing the link in there. Unfortunately, I can't see any comments on Facebook right now. But if you're on YouTube and you have any questions, please just pop them in the comments. I am able to see them here. And while I'm waiting for any questions, I'm just going to say hello to Mary Himmer. Hey, Mary. I'm glad you're here. And Stephanie, wonderful. Thank you again so much for sharing the YouTube link onto Facebook. So grateful for that. Oh, shoot. The posts are being deleted from the Musician's Advantage page? That shouldn't be happening. Technology. Okay, so here's where I have to practice what I preach and notice how I'm reacting to things that are highly irritating because I had it all set up to function correctly, of course. And then technology blindsides you and doesn't do what you want it to do. So what can I do? Just notice how I'm reacting and do my constructive thinking and let it go. Oh, well, I'll fix it later. Yes, Bill says, hey, Bill, glad you could find me here on YouTube. Bill says, since starting to study the violin, I've owned 6. There is no iconic violin to master. That's true. That's true. You can be a master on any violin. That's right. Hi. Hi, Vicente. Oh, great. Karen, hello. Karen says, great. We'll be in touch. Wonderful. I look forward to hearing from you, Karen. That's great. Okay, I don't see any questions, so I'm just going to assume that means I was super clear and you don't have any questions right now. If you do have questions later at any time, I am so easy to find. I am all over Facebook 24/7, sadly to say, but it is my work over there. Join my Facebook group if you're not on the Musician's Advantage. If you're not in the Musician's Advantage group, join that. Send me an email. Check out my website at www.artoffreedom.me. And Jen says it was super clear. Yay! Great. Thanks everybody so much for being here. Please share this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you aren't subscribed yet. And yeah, share the link everywhere. Nobody talks about this. All the research, there's no research on this. And this is the key, the use of the self. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. Take care and happy practicing. Be well. Bye. Oh, wait, before I leave, you can start learning this actually with a video that I have on my YouTube channel and in the Facebook group. It's called the Best Alexander Technique Exercise. Yeah, there's more to the title, but you can look it up. It's on my YouTube channel, so subscribe to the channel. Go to the channel. If you're not there right now, if you're watching a replay, and find, I think it's the first one on the playlist of holistic advice for musicians. It's called the Best Alexander Technique Exercise, which I truly believe it is. Might be overreaching a little bit, but forgive me. That's my experience, and I've seen it work so well with everybody. So have fun. Play around with it. Let me know how it goes. Okay? Bye. Lots of love.